Good morning, everybody. Just wanted to check in. Is everyone able to see my slides, as well as is everyone able to hear me? If you could give me a thumbs up or a yes, we can hear you in the chat, that would be great. Perfect. Thank you, Darren. That's great. Okay. We will start in 1 minute, right at 11. So just stay tuned. All right. So, good morning and Happy New Year. It is 2026, so we are kind of starting off with our 2026 webinar series. So, for those of you that don't know, probably I think it's like every other month we do a free webinar. It's Pro Ergonomics' way of kind of giving back, trying to give some context to the world of ergonomics and how it's going to fit into your organization's, kind of operations and health and safety, HR kind of systems that you are working under. Let me just get rid of that. How these typically work is I have my phone off to my side with the chat up. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them there. I may not catch all of them because obviously I'm speaking to the slides in front of me, but hopefully we are able to help everyone out. The other thing that we'll do is if there are questions that maybe are a little bit more in depth or that we need maybe to get some more resources for you on, we will send those answers out post webinar in an email, and it will be global. So even though it only is one person asking the question, the response will be put out to everyone so you all can benefit. Other than that, you will also get an email afterwards, not meaning if no one asks questions, you won't get the question email, but you will also get an email alerting you when this recording is live so that if you do need to go back and review or show somebody else, you're more than welcome to go to our YouTube site and that link will be provided to you after the webinar. Alrighty, so we have quite a few. I see a lot of familiar faces. Um, Welcome. Great to see you guys again, and I hope you're having a great 2026 so far. And I also see lots of new. So that's exciting for us. And we hope that this webinar gives you everything that you are hoping, as well as maybe even a little bit more. So for those of you that know us, I won't spend too much time on this slide, but for those of you that don't, Pro Ergonomics specializes in health safety, but primarily in ergonomics. We help a lot of companies do health and safety audits and integrate some policies and procedures, job hazard analysis, those types of things. But all of our staff are certified professional ergonomists or associate ergonomists, and we work highly specialized in the ergonomics field. Our goal is always going to be get your system running in its peak form, right? And so we're not talking necessarily always the newest and greatest and, most exciting technology coming out on the ergonomic biomechanical front. For instance, the exoskeleton conversation, I have only recommended one in my entire career. It is still something I'm still sitting back and kind of waiting on. It's something that I recommend my clients do. Where we, try to be unique is that we are really looking to focus on where we can increase your productivities, where we can ideally be proactive, because that's going to take kind of the weight off of you, which is always our goal. Our goal is to support you and the clients that, are looking to try and improve as far as ergonomics goes. So today is kind of going on that theme. So I have to admit, 2026 hasn't been overly kind yet so far. For those of you that are in the maybe Northern Ontario or in Canada, we've been getting the snow like a lot. And I'm a little bit north of the city, and so we've been getting a lot of snow. And unfortunately, last weekend we had two, one in my extended family, one in my personal vehicle accidents. And so, yes, we're feeling a little bit overwhelmed already with all of the the chaos that's happening. And so part of my New Year's resolutions this year was, to try and embody the word calm because it has not started out that way. And I'm hoping to, bring more of that into your life. And so, although it seems like that's a weird place to start this conversation, that is kind of one of the things that I often will tell people when they are trying to integrate virtual ergonomic services is that they can bring calm, right? It allows your ergonomics program to kind of work in the background because I understand, trust me, from the person, oh, thank you, Yvonne, who is, in the waiting room waiting to get picked up from my contact. I can often be waiting there for half an hour. Why? Because you are being run ragged, because you are getting the calls from the floor, you're getting the calls from senior management. Everyone wants a piece of you. And now you have to give a piece of yourself to me because, well, I'm on site and I don't know your facility. And so I need you to be kind of my shadow while I'm there. And sometimes that's policy, right? Sometimes I'm not allowed to kind of have free reign. Other clients I've been around enough that they're like, you know where you're going? And I'm like, yes, I know where I'm going, and off I go. But I'm still just one more ball you're trying to juggle in that time. So when we talk about the virtual services, that ball is being juggled without you having to do it, right? We are dealing with it on the back end. Work is happening, and it's not something that you're having to coordinate and manage to the same extent, but you still get the same results and you still get, the reports and all of the due diligence that comes with that. So what we're going to be talking about today is obviously I've obviously kind of already started talking about this. Why do we want to include virtual services in our ergonomics program? The selfish reasons are it's going to allow things to be happening while you're focused on other things, but we'll go into more depth. We're also going to talk about what are the best services to offer virtually. I will also be talking about some that I still do not recommend be done virtually, right? Just to make things super clear, because I know with AI, I know with a lot of the software programming that's happening, there are services that are being pushed kind of almost, oh, this can be done automatically for you. And we'll talk a little bit about that. I feel like we're still kind of maybe in the exoskeleton phase with a lot of those things. And trust me, we've tried, because if they're going to make your life easier, they're obviously going to make our life easier, and they're not successful. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then why it can be so easy. So really simple agenda today. We'll spend most of our time kind of going through some of the services that maybe you haven't considered doing virtually, or are maybe not even doing yet at all. And maybe virtual is a good way to kind of tiptoe into that service where you could really up the game as far as ergonomics goes within your facility. All right. Oops, sorry, that's probably not supposed to be there. So we have kind of, usually I get people to write down, just to kind of keep them focused. So the 3 bullet points that would describe your ideal ergonomics program. So when I do this, what my kind of hope and goals are. So I'll give you a second. Sorry, I don't mean to rush you, but just write down 2026. What does my ideal ergonomics program look like to you? And if you want to share and put them in the chat, that would be lovely. We may have people that want to beg, borrow, and steal some of those kind of ideals, because either they're new to the ergonomics world and kind of not sure what step to go first, or, sometimes we've been in it so long we can't see the forest for the trees. So what are some of your ideal ergonomic program goals? So some of the ones that I would expect to see would be, a goal would be to reduce your MSD injuries, right? It's often why we get the call. It's a little reactive. It's not the golden hot spot that we like to sit in, right? Ideally, we'd love to be coming in and helping you while things are proactive and nothing has happened. No injuries are on the horizon, but we understand that, you know, injuries are motivators. And so if we're struggling getting the support for our ergonomics program, injuries are often one of those things that will help propel that motivation. We need to implement controls, whether that be because we are trying to make the place safer, whether it be Ministry of Labor is telling us we need to be safer, whether it's because, it's part of our objectives or union driven, whatever the reason, we need to implement controls, right? It's part of our occupational health and safety due diligence program. The Green Book mandates, we follow through. And then the last one we often will see will be to increase your return to work options. So this is kind of more, oh, thanks for those of you that are posting. That's great. Increase your return to work options so that when we are dealing with those injuries, we don't have our claims being off work for longer than they need to. Right? We're able to bring people back quickly. We're able to keep our claims costs down. All of that's going to go and improve our bottom lines as well as our ability to schedule, be productive, so on and so forth. One of the ones that I often we hear, so just to kind of look at some of the chat right now, if you guys want to join me, run by supervisors. Oh, love it. Love that. And really, they're the ones that need to they should be the mouthpiece for ergonomics. They're the ones seeing the work being done in pretzel-like ways that we know is not good, but they're also the ones that know the machinery and know the equipment. And so sometimes for those of us in health and safety, yes, I know about guarding, but do I know the detailed SOP on how to run the, 2,000-pound press? No, I don't. So what better person to be able to kind of give some guidance than that supervisor? So I love that one. Easily accessed information. Yes. Again, that whole calm thing, I think the word easy also could be parlayed into that as well, is we want things easy. And so sometimes when we're talking about our virtual services, that is one thing that we can offer you. We can make things easy for you. Information will just be provided to you. All of the background work is kind of done easily and proactive. Providing workers with tools. Having office and clerical staff be able to adjust their own chairs. I love that. The number of times that I will have employees tell me that their chair is broken. And I'm like, really? Okay, well, let's just have a look. And it's either, zip ties have still been on the adjustment features. And so it's not that it's broken, it's that if you cut the zip tie off, the lever will actually work and do what it's meant to be doing. Yes, chairs are a confounding piece of equipment for a lot of people. So I appreciate that. And supporting medical staff, accommodations, absolutely. Oh, sit stand desks. That's an interesting conversation. We probably won't be touching on that today. We may we can always have a conversation offline about those, but there is, this conversation has been on the table for about a decade now, right? So we are now from where the whole, sitting is the new smoking started 10 years ago, we now have a lot of data. And it's not necessarily supporting that sit stand conversation the way we thought it would. However, in that timeline, we also had COVID. And so how we're using desk spaces is also changing. And so there's just a lot of interesting things that have kind of evolved over the last decade that has really propelled us as far as office ergonomics goes. And as I said, so we will be talking about office ergonomics briefly, but maybe not in that detail. So Darren, if you want to have a conversation, just, send me an email or give us a call and we can kind of walk you through any of those things. more than willing to help and give our 2 cents whenever someone is willing to listen to them. So, all right. Okay. So I'm going to start with when not to go virtual. So as I said earlier, we have AI, which is right now being told, it's going to take all our jobs. And I don't know how many of you have been playing heavily in the AI world. I'm going to admit we've tested a lot of things internally from a corporate perspective, and it's not panned out really well. We haven't gone too depths because, you know, we would rather get the reports to you rather than play with the information before we get them out to you. But I know I've used it a lot when trying to help my children with homework, and the information's not good. The information is bad. There's been lots of times where I don't let my kids use it. I teach at the college part-time as well in the health and safety world, and so I'm very used to seeing the use of AI in the academic world. And so luckily my kids have, listened to me rant about AI and how bad some of the information that's being given, and it's not on topic and it's not accurate. And so we are finding that in the that software AI kind of world is it gets like the very, very bare minimum, the stuff that you guys know, that you do not need AI to tell you, the awkward postures, the force, the repetition. Yeah, we know what ergonomic risk factors are. Thank you. But when it comes into the details, it's not giving us the knowledge that we know and the detail that we need to know. Even if you are in kind of a niche, no, not niche, but like more of a like healthcare. You guys all healthcare kind of all has the same similar issues. Municipalities, you have similar jobs all going through the same issues. So even those types of areas or industries, we're not getting any tighter details. So that is something that we're still waiting on. We're still waiting on seeing. I know that we've seen a couple of the software programs where you send a video and it gives you information back. For a lot of us, I don't know whether understanding risk is necessarily our problem. Sometimes we need to prove it for due diligence, but often my reports, the risk a part of it is usually not mind-blowing. Unfortunately, I wish to say it was that when I ran my biomechanical calculations and told you that this weight was exceeding guidelines, it's not like you didn't already have an inkling that it might be. So there's a few, caveats where that is a bit of a shock, but for the most part, we're crossing our T's and are dotting our I's. Where the value comes in is in the controls and what can we do to roll this out and fix things. So where we're seeing that we really should stay in person is going to be those physical demands assessments, those ergonomic risk assessments, whether it's, jobs that are completed by a variety of people. So there's going to be a variety of different data points that we want to collect to figure out what is the best practices here, things like that. If you have individuals, specifically in office or healthcare, that, we've done ergonomic assessments, but now we're on our third or fourth occurrence. Yeah, definitely that should not be virtual. There's something going on. An example of that I can remember is and I don't think they were doing anything virtual. This is going back a few years where virtual wasn't really a thing. But I walked in to do an ergonomic assessment with this woman, and I walked in and it was the most perfect workstation I have ever seen. And it had all the bells and whistles. And I was like, oh, I'm not the first ergonomist to be in here. Like I knew I wasn't. There's obviously it had been looked at, and she's like, nope, I think I was the fourth or the fifth, something ridiculous. And I was like, oh, and I'm like, I don't know what else I can do. Like we'll go through the process. Like I'll take you through. Maybe there is some tweak of a thing that is going to miraculously make the difference. And that's the cool thing about ergonomics, not to get excited about what I do, but there is often a tweak that can make all the difference. So, that was what I was hoping for. And I'm going through, I'm educating her. She's like, yeah, no, I know all this. I've done this. Oh, okay, well, that's interesting. Maybe I could try that. And then by luck, I don't know, timing, the air conditioning came on. and I run cold. I am not a very warm, well, hopefully I'm warm-hearted, but temperature-wise, I am not a very warm individual. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, that is shocking. And she's like, I know. And she goes, and it's right above me. And I was like, that's our problem. That was our problem. It was an air conditioning event directly over her. The air draft was coming straight down the back of her neck, down her back, and she was just tight, 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 tight. And so we took everything off the desk. We got people in. We moved the desk around, and I got an email at the end of the day saying, "Oh my God, thank you so much." But I had to be there. That is not something I would have known virtually. So if you're struggling, if you're on that third or fourth and you're looking for that minor detail, you're probably going to need someone to come in and see it. Some of the other maybe more less tangible things are going to be if you're struggling with culture. So a lot of times, I've had people be like, what are you doing here? I don't want to talk to an ergonomist. And I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting because, ergonomics is for the worker. um, you know, we could argue a lot of safety stuff is for the worker, but ergonomics really is like it's addressing not just that you go home in the same condition, but that you feel good. You feel good at the end of the day. And so having someone on site doing ergonomics, assessing a job, knowing that the goal is just to make you more comfortable, that whole seeing is believing, sometimes that can go a long way if you're struggling with a poor health and safety culture. So those would be my caveats. When we start talking kind of about the PDAs and the ERAs, I just had an example that I just kind of finished up, and it was kitchen. So how many kitchens have I seen in my almost 30 years of doing this? I've seen a lot of kitchens. Do I need to go in to know how the grill works? Do I need to go? Do I even like, whether you're a kitchen in a casino, whether you're a kitchen in a hospital, whether you're a kitchen in, an army base, a cafeteria at a school, I've seen them all. I've seen them all. Airplanes, right? Like I've seen them all. So I know how much your food trays weigh. I know how much a big tote of produce weighs, right? The the average data isn't a problem, right? I can guess how much your tray racks are going to be. They're roughly or anywhere. They go down as far low as 7 inches. They'll go up as high as 70 inches. Like I've got a lot of data just stored in my brain from the amount of kitchens I've seen. Yet I was in there one and we had this. So this is your, convection oven. They roll these in and out. And you can see we've got great because obviously there's a lot of condensation. There may be juices. There may be things that come with this food cooking situation that when we pull them out, we need drainage so that we don't have slip, trips, and fall hazards. And so we pull them out. We pull them out on these tiny little tracks. And what happens? Well, oops, not that. Sorry, here, the wheels come off. And when that wheel comes off, you can kind of see this grate is bent and not looking so lovely. Fine on the right, fine on the left, but that center section, all bent because of these wheels come off. And when these wheels come off, these things are not movable. You are trying to heave on them. You are trying to tip and tilt them. It is extremely stressful. I would not be able to capture this virtually, right? Same assessment, not to keep going on the same one, but it's literally brand new in my head. We had these carts. And although, yes, the spinning casters are great for maneuverability. In this case, these things would spin out all over the place. And they were spending so much time overcorrecting that they were having all kinds of shoulder issues, right? So that is something, again, I'm not going to be able to capture virtually. The force of opening a can, right? And looking at some of those imbalanced loads, all of those things are going to be unique to your kitchen. And it's not something that I'm going to be able to capture in that, broad database of data about kitchens in my brain or in my notes. So just kind of things like that whether it's a PDA, whether it's an ERA, the specificity, that was said poorly, is going to be in the details. And sometimes that can make the difference on whether or not you're struggling, right? It doesn't sound bad to have to push a cart that moves easily. That should be something I should be able to accommodate with. So why am I struggling getting this person I'm trying to return to work to come back to this? Well, because this cart has a mind of its own. And it's like trying to tame a bull. It was incredibly challenging. So what can we do about that? So those are some examples of why some services we still, oh, this was another one. This cart, for whatever reason, how it was being loaded, it leans to the back. So it always veers to the left or right, depending on which side the back is. But it always leans one way. So again, you're constantly stressing one side of the body. So we had to do assessments on that to see, well, is that stress enough to actually be increasing your injury potential? All right. So other reasons of kind of when do we want to go virtual? We now have talked about when we don't, but when do we? Well, we've talked about your many hats. We've talked about all the things and balls that you're trying to juggle. And so a lot of the time, depending on your portfolio, your ergonomic services can be happening without you dealing with all of the administration of it. So whether it's training, whether it is office assessments, design reviews, you basically just ship us a contact, you ship us a list of names, and we do all the work behind you. Because at this point, when is the individual available? Well, that's not for you. You don't have to worry about that. You will get copied in on everything, so you know it's all being addressed, but you don't have to manage it. Whereas when I'm going in, that's often not the case. If I'm coming in to do an assessment, you'll be the one talking to the employee, trying to figure out, well, when is a good time for them to come in? Okay, well, I'll be there to pick them up and I'll stay with them while they're doing the assessment. We'll debrief after. There's just a lot of time on your part. And that's just while I'm there, let alone the before and afters. So virtual can take a lot of that load off. When we're talking about, training, I have a training tomorrow of over 50 people, and I sent them the links. They have all registered on their own, and the health and safety team are basically just check in and they're like, are we ready to go? And I'm like, we have this many registered. They're like, oh, that's more than we expected. That's great. Thank you. Off they go. And I will check back in with them when we're done. Your costs can also be lowered. So when it comes to virtual, yes, our time obviously needs to be covered, but our time when we go on site also means our time to get there, our time and mileage to travel. And so all of that is no longer present. So you can save, on an office assessment, potentially a couple $100, depending where you are geographically. And so that can be nice too, specifically if you're having a hard time getting the financial support for your program that you would like. We can often be faster and more flexible with you. So if you tell me, oh, I have someone who's only able to do 6 o'clock at night, okay, normally I'm not going to be able to get to wherever you are, we cannot hear you. Okay. I'm not quite sure what happened. Can you hear me yet? I think, okay, so I'm back now. Okay. Okay, good. Unfortunately, my technological skills are low. So if something goes wrong, I'm not quite sure. Okay, not sure what happened, but we're glad we're back. So yes, so I can accommodate a weekend appointment. I can accommodate an evening. I can accommodate appointments in between. Let's say I have a training session in the morning, I have an assessment I'm doing in the afternoon, but I have a free hour. It's not enough time for me to drive to your location and drive to my other one, but I could fit something in between. So we can be a lot more efficient for you as far as when you can get things booked, if that's the only time your employees can get the assessment done. And obviously, when it comes to the training component or some of the other assessments we're going to talk about, geography is not a problem. You can be anywhere and we can still work together and keep your ergonomics program kind of chugging along rather than waiting for a time where you maybe have time, right? All right. So I think the one that became the big movement piece during COVID and is kind of stuck around is the virtual office ergonomic assessments, right? We became very good at using Teams meetings for more than just, a quick meeting. We've learned how to, do breakout rooms and have conversations. That's more for training, but our virtual office ergonomics, we became very, very efficient on how this process goes. And so we can easily, as I said, set this up. If you send us the list of employees, we can send out bookings and they can just book in whenever they want. You kind of say, I need this done within 2 weeks. We said give them a 2-week window with all the calendar spots open and they just book in where they need and we pop in and we do the assessments. The pre-assessment questionnaire is sent to them directly. So it's still very, very objective. It's not that we are just going on what they say. I think that is a misconception, is that office ergonomics, I'm missing the objective piece of that. Absolutely not. The pre-assessment questionnaire asks them to take measurements of everything. There's lots of times where some of the assessment, again, we've been doing this a long time, so we will get measurements we're like, well, that's not right. That's impossible for that to be at that high or that low or whatever. And so some of the maybe technical skills from using just a tape measure, we maybe will go back over and look at some of those pieces. So we ask for them to have a tape measure on hand while we do the assessment so that we can clarify and quantify and validate the data that they're giving us. So we get discomfort surveys done. We have pictures, potentially. Sometimes I've even had videos. So everything is still very objective and very, very much the same that I would do if I was in person. So you get all of the same quality, but you're not having to spend the time to get me there. So that travel cost. Also, I don't need to be chaperoned. Often if I'm going in and doing a bunch, you have to keep kind of coming in to take me to the next person. That's all happening on its own. And you can get one done or you can get hundreds and it's all the same process. And it's just a matter of you waiting into getting the reports. So virtual office assessment is a service that we have perfected. It is a nice package. The other one that came about, and it is something we have actually been doing for a lot longer. We've been doing this probably for about right from the get-go. And this is something that for those of you like in our school boards and our municipalities, I think that's the sectors that asked for this first. And so you are guinea pigs and we perfected it on you. But whether we have lots of different virtual training sessions. Why they became virtual, why we didn't, is because a lot of the time, specifically in our municipalities, I have a supervisor over at the community center. I have a supervisor at the library. I have a supervisor at town hall. I have a supervisor at a maintenance or, transportation area. And so bringing these people in is sometimes challenging, specifically if you are in a municipality or a sector or a company that you're not close. And so same thing, we were able to, it was a little bit more challenging because it was across Canada. So it was different time zones. We were having to try and pick a time that the training could happen, that it wasn't going to be ludicrous for any one province. But we were able to bring together supervisors and do ergonomic leadership training across Canada for one of our manufacturers. So absolutely, Yvonne, for sure. So there's lots of different things and we customize all our training anyways. So as far as how you want this done, I do engineering training virtually across North America. Right? So that's always fun. I have people down in Texas and I have people, over in Saskatchewan, and we're all talking at a very, very high level, talking very detailed about tools and assessments and how to do these things, and they are extremely successful. And to the point where um, this was actually so this was an automotive company we were doing. It was across North America. This was the feedback I got back. This was a quote. So he said he'd done lots of ergonomics. He's an engineer. He'd been an engineer for a very long time. And he had done a version of ergonomics training many times. So he was highly confident that he did not need this training. And his experience to date was that all his ergonomics training was ridiculously boring. So to do it virtually, where you weren't even in person, was like his worst nightmare. And so he put this in his feedback form, but he actually stayed back afterwards and talked to me because he obviously felt very passionately about this. But he had said that the virtual training was some of the best training in any capacity, not just ergonomics, that he'd ever had. And so there is ways around, trying to, if you're worried that you're going to have people feel disconnected, or you're not going to be able to have the same experience that you will virtually, that's not the case. We've actually had, as I said, really, really tough, very mathematical, very technological subject matter covered in some of the trainings that we've done virtually. And as I said, they have felt that it was better. They were actually had more support virtually than they did, because I can easily send them something. Oh, okay, you're struggling with this here. This is an Excel spreadsheet that I can often sometimes use. It makes things easier. We have different people using different platforms. In that training, I have someone using an app, I have someone using an Excel spreadsheet, and I have someone doing it manually. And so they're all able to kind of feed into the perfection of that kind of system. So training can be great for lots of reasons. And again, from a cost savings perspective, no setup time, no travel. You don't necessarily need to provide lunch for everybody, right? So even if it was a full day, we typically don't do more than 4 hours. That's a long time to be on the computer. I'll agree to that. And so whereas typically you may have a full day, we will set it up in 2 days of 4 hours. And actually it's being really well received, because most people are like, I don't have a full day to give you, but a half day I could do. So that's always very interesting. Um, Another one that works really well, and this is going to go with the next couple that we're going to talk about, is cognitive demands. So the process by which we go about doing a cognitive demands assessment is very verbal, right? Obviously, I cannot see what's going on in your head. So there may be some preliminary discussion beforehand where I will require a bit more maybe of your time, looking at things like your performance review structure, templates you may have. I don't need to see the specific performance review details of what you've said about any individual, but what templates are you using? What questions are you asking? What do the job descriptions look like? What are the job postings asking for? Some of those things are very insightful into letting us know, well, what is that cognitive or mental demand for an employee. And then from there, we have a couple meetings. And so often what will happen when we've done these virtually is we set these meetings up virtually. I have all my preliminary data already provided. So you've spent, I don't know how many minutes emailing that to me, and I've gone through and reviewed it. You don't have to review it with me if you don't need to. I am then set up with the employee of choice that I will be interviewing, just like I would be in person. And often, specifically if I have a lot of them to do. So again, I would say my cognitive demands, not to stereotype who uses them the most, but definitely my municipalities, my healthcare sectors use them quite a bit. Some of my educational sectors do, but definitely those first two. And so we'll often do a bunch of them, and then I will set up a meeting with the managing manager of that department and just review and question kind of some of the details that I've been given. But it's very, very interview based. We give them scenarios, we give them instances, we ask a lot of questions revolving about what their day looks like, how they are supposed to manage things. And so we're able to do that virtually quite easily. And so on top of that, if you, let's say, have your PDAs done, but you're finding you're getting a lot more of those chronic stress claims that WSIB has now been allowing, then we have the ability to upgrade your PDA to a JDA by just adding that component in, because a PDA plus a CDA is a job demands analysis, and your job demands analysis kind of covers both things. So we can easily cover off the psychosocial, the psychological, the mental kind of health claim issues by including a CDA to your JDA. So if you're finding that that's an area where you're getting a lot of people pushing back because of chronic mental stress, then getting your CDAs is something that you could potentially look at adding. And that is one that is easily done virtually. So again, that's something we can take that off your plate. And then kind of our last big one would be an ergonomic design, because let's be blunt, there is no workstation for me to see anyways, right? So often I am given, whether it be equipment specs, I have one that I am doing, I'm not sure if you're here today, that client that just sent that to me. I'm going to be doing a long-term care. It's basically a lifting aid so that when they have someone who falls, that they're not manually picking this person up. They have this piece of equipment. And so they've asked us to look at this. So we're going to be doing a design review on that based on talking to the manufacturer, looking at the specifications, and doing kind of a virtual, very proactive risk assessment on that piece of equipment to see if that is really something that should be bought into. If you're looking at a new line, a new space, we have these opportunities where we will send me the design specs, the blueprints, so to speak. And based on those measurements, I just take those and I compare them to anthrometrics. And not just anthrometrics, the anthrometrics that the Ministry of Labor would want you to be accommodating to. So we will often see our designs come in and they are very much built for the average person. So if you were to build that, you would find very, very quickly that you would have, probably a good 5, 10, maybe even 20, depending on your demographic of people who this is not working for. And if you have one of those individuals, those outliers, whether it's a really small individual or a really taller individual, you're going to have, if they're the ones assigned to that job, you're going to have problems. And so we can ixnay all of that on paper. We can say, okay, yeah, you've designed for the average, but you know what? You can make this more comprehensive. If you drop this height, you're going to accommodate 100% of the population. If you raise this, you're going to accommodate 100% of the population. So again, we're still not getting into, oh, well, we've accommodated it now for the tall people instead of the average people, right? That still leaves huge gaps. No, the design review accommodates for 100%. So we're able to kind of map out those things. If there's weights, we know, we can say, okay, then it has to be at this height. It has to go from here to here. And we can answer questions before you're exposing your employees to the problem. And so this gets very exciting for us. We really enjoy the proactive approach that ergonomic design reviews give, and they are done all offsite. It is all me, paperwork. I send a couple of emails usually, and then we will debrief and go over things before the report goes through just to make sure that I haven't missed anything. But for the most part, virtual, all virtual. So great practice if you're kind of getting to the point where you're finding that things are, you've done all your due diligence. Ergonomics has been a part of the company for a long time, but every time you get a new workstation, you're like, why are we back here again? Why haven't we learned from our past mistakes? Well, a design review can kind of force the hand in that respect. All right. So this is kind of what that would look like. So you can kind of see we have the design here. We have all the measurements. We map them out. And you may have, so for instance, of this is a, well, this is Union Station, actually. If you go and buy a ticket from one of the behind the glass tellers, this is their workstation. And so the original design, you can see how many issues we had. We had one. We had one that was within guidelines. Everything else exceeded guidelines, and we had to go back and try and figure out a way of fixing all of these, which was hard because this is a very tight space. We don't have a lot of room in these wickets, but that's the kind of detail that you're going to get. And as I said, it's for 100% of the population. And then the other thing that is a good one that can be done virtually. Now, often we do need a PDA done ahead. So maybe this is a bit of a cheat because if you don't have your PDAs done, as I said earlier, that is really a service that I would recommend we still do in person. So we would come on for that. But the actual, accommodation and return to work process, we can help with the non-bias, objective job matching from the FAF to the PDA. We can obviously, where I feel that our service becomes a little bit more extra, because you're just as capable of saying, oh, the FAF is saying it lifts 10 pounds. I have a PDA that says 20 pounds. Yeah, that's fine. That's not a match. But where we come in is the next question is, well, where is the accommodation opportunity, right? Yeah, we don't have a match now, but can we get there? So giving that accommodation report to it, as well as providing potential work hardening plans on which elements we can try and push forward first because it's an easier accommodation strategy, or the physical functional abilities of the individual is, we know these areas of the body are going to take longer, so we're not going to be able to push the shoulder as quickly as we can push maybe some kind of low level lifting, as an example. So all of this, again, is usually done by document review and can be done offsite and virtually and discussed through virtual meetings, or as I said, just a document review. All right, so this is kind of why it's so easy. So essentially, with all of these things are usually things I hear that most of my clients are wanting to do or hoping to do. And so you can have them going on without you literally pushing the ball uphill the whole time, right? You can start the ball pushing, but we take over halfway through, and hopefully by the time you come back in, the ball's at the top of the hill and you don't have to worry about it quite as much. And you can put your time and energy working on other things, working on your health and safety program, getting more buy-in for your health and safety management system, getting training that you were hoping to do on the go that otherwise, you didn't see how you were going to have time to get that sorted. All these things. So we can stop putting the ergonomics on hold. We know, right? I mean, maybe not all of you, and give yourself a pat on the back if you're not, that's great. But we understand how hard it is to move ergonomics through an organization, right? No one's dying from an ergonomic injury. We know this. And so we often get a lot of no's, we often get a lot of procrastination. And the reason why we know this is because the last quarter of every year is crazy. I can't even tell you how busy we are in the last quarter of the year, to the point where I think we do like 2/3 of our billable or something ridiculous like that in our last quarter than we do all year. So, and it's because they know they have budget, right? They have money left over that they're not going to have to beg and plead for, that they're not going to have to, and you need to use it by the end of the year. So we have a push on speed. So maybe we don't have to go through all the hoops and ladders that we normally would have to, because, oh, well, we need to get this done by, fiscal end. So we get approval easier because, yeah, we need to get that done, do that. And so we don't have to necessarily do that when we're using our virtual services properly, because things can be happening without, as I said, you grinding all the time to get it done. So you provide us the contacts, we manage the projects, we book the appointments, we send out the invites, we provide you with all of the tracking, whether it be copying you in on communications or giving you updates, letting you know what's outstanding if someone's not responding who hasn't booked. But again, you would know that based on being CC'd in. We provide you with documentation and due diligence thereafter so that you have proof if Ministry of Labor were to ever come knocking. There's no rooms to book, there's no lunches to organize, and you don't need to babysit us. Because at the end of the day, we do realize for some of you that is a barrier. You just don't have time to spend all day watching us work. And I get a lot of people being like, oh, you can't be left alone, so I'm going to be with you all day. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. We are not exciting people to watch work. Like, not at all. There is a lot of note taking, a lot of measuring. There's, yes, obviously there's some interviewing, but it's nothing probably overly captivating. It is to us because we know what we're trying to discover or find, but it is really, really not exciting to watch us work. So that's all taken off the table and you don't have to worry about it. So it keeps it really simple for our clients. And it's just something that I know for our clients that are using us, it is the one thing that they are like, it is so easy. It is so easy. I don't have to do anything. And I know it's being taken care of. And I think that says something. So again, going for our looking for some calm in 2026. I mean, we posted this before 26 even started. This was posted back in December. But it's very much going in line with my 2026 mantra because I really feel like it is something that just takes a bit of the load off and allows your program to continue. Just keep rolling forward rather than either get stuck and put on hold or roll backwards in a lot of the case. Sometimes we kind of find ourselves rolling backwards. So as our New Year's gift, we actually are offering, if anyone is interested in doing training, so Yvonne, you mentioned to touch base, but keep this in mind. If you're able to book it, you don't need to have it done, but have it booked before February 16th, then any of your virtual training will have 10% off. So it's not a ton, I realize. I'm sorry, it can't be more, but it is something, just as I said, let's start 2026 off on the right foot and start maybe some of the things that maybe you would typically have pushed off because you just don't have time because we just got back from holidays and we're feeling crazy. But as I said, let us take it off your plate. We can get it done. So hopefully that works. But yeah, other than that, does anyone have any questions? We have about 9 minutes left. Okay, so going back to office assessments, one issue that I'm anticipating in my self-performing virtual assessments. When I am doing an in-person assessment, an associate says their arm angle is at 90 degrees, but from my angle, their arm angle was probably 60. How do you ensure? So that goes into your pre-assessment when we're doing them. We make sure that we have both anthropometric data as well as equipment data. So I'm going to agree with you. If you said it's at 90 degrees and I have a measurement that shows your elbow height at this height and your arm height at this height, then yeah, it's at 90 degrees. But if you're, and this is why we get people to keep a tape measure with them because of that. Like if you're showing me that, yeah, it's at 9 degrees, but you're telling me your elbow height is at, 30, but your armrest height's at 25, well, I can tell that math isn't mathing. And so we have lots of kind of checks and balances to make sure that what we're being told is accurate. So anybody else have any other questions? Again, if this is something that you want to kind of discuss offside, actually I can put it in here. There you go. So that's my email address. If there's anything that you want to have as kind of a sidebar conversation, just reach out. I am more than willing to give, answer questions, help you kind of map out anything. Hello, again. How are you? It's good to see you. Sorry, as I said, there's lots of people here that I know. Okay, so what is your opinion on positioning the main monitor in the corner of an L-shaped desk versus facing it? Yeah, we try to get people out of the L as often as possible. It's rare that we're going to leave you in an L. if you have an L-shaped desk. Just not to belabor the point, there's just a lot, and I think you all probably have seen it and can agree. There's just a lot going on with L. I have my keyboard tray falling. If I have a keyboard tray, it's being lost underneath the 90 degrees. My armrest on my chair will likely bump in way sooner, so I'm not able to pull in as much. Um, because of the depth of the desk in an L, I'm able to push my monitor way, way further than I should. So therefore, I'm getting that lovely craning turtle kind of posture in the head, neck, and upper body. It's just problematic. So I want it directly in front of you, 100%. I just don't want you in the corner. You need to come out. So we will kind of work on what that looks like. Um, Whatever's possible as far as measurements being provided. It's often easier if someone else does it, but a lot of the people that we work with, they don't have that option. They're on their own. And so they manage, they do okay. So, yeah. And as I said, sometimes we'll get measurements where like, this is saying that your elbow height is 60 inches. And I'm like, that's not possible. You would have to be the Jolly Green Giant for that to be the case. So we will, that's as I said, we will double check during the assessment period to make sure that the data points are accurate. That is important, and it's something um, like a lot of people will say ergonomics is a gray science, and I get why you say that, but at Pro, anyways, the owners are a little bit, we like things to be black and white. We really do. We're a bit more and we engineer minded, and we do love things to be in that black and white field. And so we do our best to try and get it there. And so our balance, our checks, how we make sure that we're actually having data that's valuable and valid is really important to us, and that it's not just and repeatable. Repeatable is a big one, because what repeatable gives you is, yep, you don't believe me, here's a tape measure. You don't think that's the case, here's a stopwatch. No, you don't believe me it's that way, here's a scale. Right, that's what I mean when I say black and white, is that we're not guessing at anything. It is an actual number that we can repeat, and it doesn't need to be repeated by us, it can be repeated by anybody. That is important. All right. Okay, well, I won't keep you if you guys have other places to go. As I said, you will be getting the link for this video. So if there was something I said, or as I said, you're wanting to share a piece of it to someone, you can always share the link to them, or whichever would help you. It's there for to use however you want, or not at all. But I really do appreciate you making time for me. I know all of us are really busy getting into January. And yeah, again, if there's a way that I can help figure out how you can start using those virtual services more, because as I said, the clients that have been doing it ongoing, they are just floored at just the time that they are saving. And still, as I said, they're getting reports coming in all the time, and they're not having to do anything more than here's an email, here's the person, set it up. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And oh, hi, Benita. And I look forward to hearing from you, and hopefully I'll be seeing a lot of you, some of you. I know I'm going to be seeing some of you soon. So that's exciting. Happy New Year. And I'll talk to you later. You're welcome.